President Obama will tell the nation exactly what he wants in a health care reform bill. The Wall Street Journal reports this morning that the president will back a government-run insurance option. In a new proposal, Senate Democrats want to fine individuals up to $3,800 for not carrying health insurance. That would be $3,800 for a family. But much of what happens will fall to Democratic Senator Tom Harkin, who Fox News has learned will take over as chairman of the Health and Education Committee, replacing the late Senator Ted Kennedy. For more, I'm joined by Jim McTague. He's the Washington editor for Barron's, Republican Congressman Tom Price of Georgia, and Andrew Rubin of New York University's Langone Medical Center. He's also the host of Healthcare Connect on Sirius Satellite XM Radio, Channel 114. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you guys.
Good morning.
I apologize there. I was whispering to Andrew when Mr. Webster was sending it back to me because I was very curious. Andrew, what did you make of Senator Max Baucus's plan yesterday?
Well, it's interesting because I think this is where the money is. The president's got a big speech tonight, but I think the Baucus bill is really where you're going to see most of the action on health care reform. Some of the stuff that's coming out of it, some of the proposals kind of make sense, and whether or not, Congress can come together and put it all together, we'll see what happens. But I think there's some good meat in there to start talking about. Yeah,
Congressman Price, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. If so, what do you make of it? Because I did see some bipartisan pieces in there, including things like selling insurance across state lines, health care exchanges, things of that nature. Have you gotten a look?
Just a cursory look, but I'll tell you, Alexis, I don't see the kinds of big things that need to happen, and that is liability reform, lawsuit abuse reform that needs to be very robust in order to get many of us on board, because we're not addressing the real cost drivers in health care. And if we don't do that, then there's no way that we can significantly decrease the cost of providing that service in a positive way.
Jim, what does the president need to do this evening?
Well, what he needs to do is, first of all, convince the American public that he's not trying to shove a plan down his throat, that if Congress needs more time to debate this, he will, because the Americans are very skeptical right now. I mean, because of the financial crisis and what happened on Wall Street, they just don't trust their government. It's as simple as that. So he has to give the American public a chance to digest these plans as well. There are 5 plans on Capitol Hill right now. The American public is not stupid. They are not being duped by people and misled. They've read the bill themselves, and they are justifiably confused.
That's an excellent point, Jim. A lot has been said, Jim, as to whether or not the president will support a public option tonight, or whether or not he will ease some of that language and perhaps risk losing some support from some of the liberal members of the Democratic Party, but in hopes to perhaps gain some more bipartisan support. Will he do that?
There's a story in the Wall Street Journal today that says that the president will come out and call for this public option. And I think that will cost him some public support from the center and the right, because Americans are very suspicious of bureaucracies and their effectiveness. I mean, they went to public school. They know what happens when government gets involved in something near and dear to their hearts. So that could be a real problem for the president going further. He wins the left, he loses everybody else.
Andrew, you're a health administrator. What do you believe we need to hear? How much clarity does the American public need to get on where the president actually stands based on the fact that there's 5 bills in Congress?
I think that's a great question. I don't think you're going to, this is another speech from the president. It's important, but I don't think you're going to hear a lot of detail out of it. You'll hear more detail than we've heard in the past, but I don't think enough that's going to get people moving one direction or the other. An interesting point was just made about cost. There's not a lot of detail on the cost yet, and that's going to be when we start hearing exactly how we're going to pay for this. I think that's when people are going to start coming together and coalescing around, one of these bills. Most likely, again, the baseline will be the Senate Finance Committee. But until we hear some specifics on the cost, you're going to have a lot of skepticism out there.
Congressman Price, how essential is that? You're shaking your head. Is that one of the most important factors for you?
Absolutely. Again, this is the president's 28th speech on health care, so he's got to say something different in order to attract people's attention. And the thing that Jim mentioned about the trust of the American people, this administration, frankly, has lost that trust. And so they've got to change the game. If he comes out and says, I'm for a government-run program, if he comes out and supports tax increases on the American people to pay for this, I think that's a non-starter. Not with the Republican conference in the House or in the Senate. That's a non-starter with the American people. So he's got to really change the game here today.
Congressman, I'm so impressed that you're counting his health care speeches up to 28. I didn't even get a good count of that. But Congressman, look, I read through Senator Max Baucus's plan yesterday, and I know we're all calling it the Gang of Six, and it's questionable as to whether or not the 3 Republicans support it. But just walking through this here, it is basically saying that nonprofit co-ops will be the option. That will create the competition. It will be mandatory, very much like auto insurance, and you will face a penalty if you do not participate in the plan. Is that one of the more reasonable options, or are you very much against the concept of people being penalized?
Well, it may be more reasonable for the left. The problem is it violates a fundamental principle. When Congress mandates something, as the senator is proposing to do, then it's got to define what it's mandating. And in this instance, it defines what qualifies as health insurance, what kind of health insurance all of us must have. And the bill all of the bills that have been before Congress have said that the kinds of things that many people like health savings accounts or high deductible catastrophic plans or even cafeteria plans, won't only be unavailable, they'll be illegal. And that's not the kind of program that the American people will embrace.
Jim, how much of this is about the midterm elections next year, and how much does the president need to stick to the party line at the consequence of losing some of that party in 2010?
Well, it's pretty much at this late date. And the closer you get to January, the greater the influence of the midterm elections. And this is why the blue dog Democrats in Congress have such leverage, because they come from very conservative states, and they are worried about their chances of being elected next year. And so this is why the Blue Dogs, together with a block of vote no Republicans, are wielding so much influence in the House and in the Senate. And so this weighs very much on the president's mind. Let me add that the president likes to speak in footnotes. He's a lawyer. He leaves himself a lot of wiggle room. If he does that tonight, I think his speech will be a failure. He really does have to give the American people up front concrete examples of what he favors in health care.
All right, so there you have it. Make sure it's specific, Mr. President. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Wonderful seeing you. I appreciate it.